morning.
Morning.
Thank you for coming. Sexual harassment is not simply a legal standard that exists only in the workplace and only then if a lawsuit is filed. Sexual harassment occurs when the behavior is unwanted and causes harm. Unwelcome sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, and other verbal or physical conduct of a sexual nature constitutes sexual harassment. This is the type of behavior that I spoke directly to the mayor about after I learned firsthand about his sexually harassing more than one woman. I told him that what he was doing was not only sexual harassment, but a gross abuse of his power, and that sexual harassment was not limited to his employees, but also applied to women he met in the course of his official capacity as the mayor of our city. I explained that because he was the highest elected official in the city, he wielded a lot of power, and he had an obligation to behave in an appropriate manner, because it had the same effect on women whether they worked for him as an employee or whether they were an employee of a company or organization or even an individual who had dealings with the city. For example, what if the woman worked for a company that assigned the woman the task of having the mayor attend their event, and their job depended on making sure he would do so? How might that woman react to his asking her for a date or touching her, when her job could be impacted if she said something to rebuff his advances? I explained that his actions placed women in bad and disturbing situations and were unacceptable. I left the meeting, and I knew he was not comprehending what I was trying to tell him. Over the past many weeks, the mayor's pattern of behavior has become clear to me. It begins with him checking a woman's availability through asking her about a spouse or a boyfriend, then isolating the woman somewhere off where they can talk. He then requests dinner, a later meeting, making unwanted sexual comments, or physically imposing himself upon her. I would like to read to you the stories from two women who met with the mayor, and I want to provide you some specifics. Constituent number 1 says, I went to see Mayor Bob Filner at City Hall earlier this year to talk about a city issue that concerned me. When the mayor was ready to see me, his staffer accompanied me into the room where the mayor was waiting. A few moments after the staffer and I entered the room, Mayor Filner asked the staffer to leave the room. The staffer complied. The first thing the mayor did after the staffer left the room was ask me whether I was single. Before I could answer, he followed up by asking me whether I was seeing anyone. I then responded, Mr. Mayor, you have a very beautiful fiancé. Mayor Filner then said, I'd like to go out with you. May I kiss you? Immediately upon asking whether he could kiss me, Mayor Filner grabbed me and kissed me. I was able to push myself away and hurriedly left the room, very upset. It should go without saying that his comments and physical comment were, to put it kindly, extremely unwelcome. Constituent number 2. This constituent deals with a variety of policy issues that are relevant to the city of San Diego. Upon first meeting Bob Filner, he was cordial and seemed interested in her conversation, which took place following a debate. He was not inappropriate in any way at that time. As the campaign progressed, this woman was inspired to volunteer and even sent him a couple of opinions regarding policy issues in which she was involved. Filner responded to one of her messages, "You are wonderful," which naturally made her feel useful and inspired her to continue helping with the campaign. Following his successful bid for mayor, Bob invited this woman to meet privately with him. At their breakfast meeting, the mayor made some flirtatious comments which were chalked up to friendly banter, but politely rebuked. The policy issues were the focus of discussion, and it seemed to her that the mayor genuinely valued her perspectives. Approximately a month later, he asked her to meet again. With some reservation due to the flirtatious comments previously made, she agreed to meet with him at a public location. She was excited about the opportunity to have the ear of the most influential person in town. She continued to believe the primary reason the mayor wanted to meet with her was because she had substance to bring to the conversation, and that she could add to his success as mayor. There was a great deal to discuss. In her mind, it was like picking up the conversation with an engaging friend, and the mayor spoke freely about numerous issues. As they were leaving, the conversation suddenly shifted. "I want to kiss you. You are so beautiful," Bob Filner said. Caught completely off guard by the comment, they exited and walked across the street. On the sidewalk, the mayor suddenly, in clear view of anyone who might pass by, grabbed and kissed her, jamming his tongue down her throat. She was completely shocked, first by the suddenness of it, and second, or maybe concurrently, that he didn't care that he was the mayor and trying to kiss someone who was not his fiancée on the sidewalk in plain view. She quickly pushed him away, stunned. Her car was nearby, and she had agreed to give the mayor a ride home, and felt it would be extremely awkward and rude to just leave him standing there. In hindsight, she should have never let him into her car. She really didn't want to come off as rude. She wanted herself and her issues to be relevant. She was in no way willing to sacrifice values or to use the desires of another to advance her goals. But this was the mayor who had just tried to kiss her. She was unnerved. While sorting this out and about to drive off, the mayor quickly had his hand on the inside of her bra and was again trying to put his tongue down her throat. In reflection, she now feels guilty and ashamed for not more forcefully rebuffing his flirtations and his groping. She feels that if she had done so, maybe things would have gone differently. Maybe he would still be interested in her issues, and maybe he would have not done this to someone else. This is a woman who genuinely admired the mayor, and she has been made to feel that in order to be heard, to have access to the mayor, she would have to accept the unwanted flirtations, private meetings, and possibly, eventually, sexual relations. Another pattern that is emerging, that is the end of her statement, but another pattern that is emerging is that many who have spoken to the mayor about this when they heard rumors, there are more than one people, I am learning. There are so many people who have talked to Bob Filner about his behavior. He has repeatedly told them it was a flirtation, there's nothing to it, don't worry about it, it's fine. Repeatedly, they have been assured that he would correct his behavior. If the mayor is truly sorry for the wrong he has done and truly wishes to do differently, he must resign and focus all of his time and energy on getting help. We, all of us, standing here today, are only going to enable the mayor if, knowing what we now know, we allow him to pretend that he will change while in office. But worse, we will all fail the women of our city if we ask them to continue to meet with this man, to seek the leadership of one who will continue to harass them, grope them, try and stick their tongue down their throat, grab their breasts. One who is tragically, Bob Filner is tragically unsafe for any woman to approach. Again this morning, we call on the mayor to resign, and we want the women of this city and the people who love them to know that sexual abuse and this behavior is not normal, not their fault, and they are not to blame. Bob Filner is to blame, and he needs to resign. We need to stand by our women who have been abused who have been sexually harassed and stand up for them and get him out of office. Help us stop this horrible, horrible civic nightmare.
You, Donna, way to go.
Give us a name. Give us the name. Yeah, give us a name. Then it's hearsay. No name, hearsay.
America's finest city is in crisis. Indeed, it faces many crises right now. But the one that matters most today is the one that involves the safety and security of the women who interact with Mayor Bob Filner. The last week has not been easy for anyone. The public has the right to know what Mayor Filner has done wrong, about the ways in which he has abused his power and harmed women. At the same time, these women have the right to be free from retaliation and further humiliation as a result of their having the courage to come forward and say enough's enough. Donna, Marco, and I are doing our very best to provide as much information as possible in the manner and at the pace that these women are comfortable with. We are trying to balance the public's right to know with the women's rights of privacy. To this end, Donna has now given you specific information about how Mayor Filner has abused his power. Marco will provide more. The information is nothing short of horrific, and it would be horrific even if it occurred only once, no matter who the culprit might be. The information becomes horrific, intolerable, and a cause for immediate action because the man who's abusing women remains in office on the 11th floor of this city hall. Part of what we're talking about is sexual harassment against city employees. Sexual harassment is illegal in California, and it includes the following. These are merely examples. Unwanted sexual advances, offering employment benefits in exchange for sexual favors, actual or threatened retaliation, leering, making sexual gestures, or displaying sexually suggestive objects, pictures, cartoons, or posters, making or using derogatory comments, epithets, slurs, or jokes. Sexual comments including graphic comments about an individual's body, sexually degrading words used to describe an individual, or suggestive or obscene letters, notes, or invitations, and physical, touching, or assault, as well as impeding or blocking movements. Now, sexual harassment is bad enough, but Mayor Filner's conduct goes beyond violating laws protecting employees. Mayor Filner has also violated his constituents by abusing women who supported him, looked up to him, believed in him as a champion of their causes, and wanted to see him succeed in all that he promised to do for this city. We are not talking about occasional off-color comments. This is an egregious abuse of power by a man whom many of us once respected and trusted. For us, this call for Mayor Filner to resign has never been about politics. It is about public safety and core community standards and values. Abuse of women will not be tolerated in our community, not on one occasion, and certainly not serially or at City Hall. But that is what we have today. As long as Mayor Filner remains in office, there can be no guarantee that every woman he encounters will be safe. And because he cannot provide that very reasonable but non-negotiable assurance, he simply cannot govern. That is why it pains me to say, and have to repeat this morning, that Mayor Filner must step down right now.
Due process. Due process. Give us a name.
Yeah, prove it in court. Yeah, prove it in court. Take it to the district attorney.
There will be a sexual harassment claim filed with the city. There may be lawsuits filed against the city. The goals of the three individuals you're hearing from today was to avoid putting these women on trial because we know what so many of you out there know. This mayor cannot control himself and has not for a long time. I'm going to talk to you about an employee of the mayor's office. I'm going to tell you some examples of what she had happen to her and what she witnessed repeatedly in the office place. There's a term. It's disgusting. It's called the Filner headlock. This is what's used to describe a pattern that our mayor has with women. It occurs in the office. It occurs at fundraisers. It occurs when there is a woman present who the mayor would like to sequester and have a private conversation with. He puts his arm around their shoulder, pulls it in tighter around her neck. The woman believes that the mayor just wants to talk to her and gets pulled away from the group where she can't be overheard, where he can't be overheard. And then he begins, as Donna mentioned in her story. Are you married? You got a boyfriend? He'll oftentimes pull in close to their face and tell them, you're wonderful, you're beautiful, I want to kiss you. His goal is to get them out of the way, and he says things, come on, you know you love me, just give me a kiss. Let's go up to my office, no one will know. This isn't a one-time thing. This is in the office. The mayor did this to my client. She saw him do this to numerous times to other women to get them alone, to proposition them. My client is confident that as we move forward with claims, potentially lawsuits, and as others are questioned under oath and under penalty of perjury, this will be ubiquitous. The security detail, the others in the office will corroborate this fact. There's something else. It's called the Filner Dance. For whatever reason, the mayor feels that it is within his prerogative to ask women to kiss him, and if he feels even the slightest hesitation in pulling back, he will force a kiss on them. At that point, the Filner Dance is when a woman, faced with the mayor, close to her face, not wanting to be kissed, tries to evade, and oftentimes the mayor lands a kiss on her cheek. In the mayor's office, there are women who call him a dirty old man, who push him away. But this is their job. This is their boss. They're scared. They are victims. My client told the mayor early on in her employment, as he was about to go before numerous cameras, you're doing a great job. And his response was, I do a better job if you kiss me. She honestly believed that he was joking at that time, early in her tenure. Little did she know this was the MO, and this would continue for 6 months. My client has witnessed, or has discussed with others who have witnessed, the mayor grab an employee and try to kiss her, have her awkwardly call him a dirty old man and push him away, and yet he continued to make rude comments to her. She has complained that he grabbed her ass and touched her chest. Somewhat recently, the mayor pulled my client into her office, put his arm around her and pulled her to him stating, I know you love me, I think you're beautiful, come on, give me a kiss, resulting in the Filner Dance to avoid a kiss on the lips and telling the mayor to get out of her office. This made him mad. His response is telling. I'm the mayor. You can't kick me out of any office. That's the person we're talking about today. While staffing events, employees have to witness the mayor engaging in these behaviors. When pretty women are available to discuss topics, when they come up to him thinking that they're approaching the mayor and getting his ear to talk about issues that matter to them, he pulls them away and they come back flustered. One other thing the mayor did repeatedly, and others will attest to, when he had meetings in his office, there'd be a woman present, and usually a staffer. Staffer's job is to take notes. That's how it's always worked. But when the mayor saw fit, when the woman was up to his liking, as they were leaving, he would pull the woman back in, sometimes from a group, sometimes having met with her, just with the staffer. And he would brusquely tell his staffer, you're not needed, and close the door. Sometimes for 5 minutes, sometimes for 25 minutes. We cannot attest to what goes on behind those closed doors, but we know it's happened. We know that the women have, on multiple occasions, come out and quickly left the office with the most flustered of looks on their faces. My client has known the mayor a long time. My client has worked for the mayor for approximately 6 months. There is no circumstance under which it would be appropriate for the mayor to enter into an elevator with my client or any person who he employs and to tell them that they would do a better job on that floor if they worked without their panties on. If those of you calling for due process need to understand why Donna, myself, Cory, my sister, Lorena Gonzalez, Tony Atkins, David Alvarez, Todd Gloria, and others have stood up and called for the resignation of this mayor, now you know. Donna and I met with the mayor to talk about this particular employee's grievances, to talk about what he would need to do. And I stand here before you to say, our mayor needs help. Our mayor needs to step down. Now, in response to the obvious pressure put on him and our attempts not to disclose who these women were, the mayor, knowing full well these stories, and Donna and I, having talked about them to his face, issued the apology last week. And that apology was very important, as those were abandoning him for the sake of protecting these women. We're reminded of what the city's sexual harassment policy states, quoting federal law. It states that sexual harassment is unwelcome sexual advances and other verbal or physical conduct of a sexual nature, where such conduct has the purpose or effect of unreasonably interfering with an individual's work performance or creating an intimidating, hostile, or offensive work environment. Remember his apology. At the time when he knew what we knew, at a time when people were fleeing, at a time when he had no other option, he sought to keep his small support near him, and he made two important statements in that video apology. He said, "I have intimidated women, and I have not respected them." For purposes of the claim that will come forward and potentially the lawsuits, the mayor has already admitted violating the sexual harassment policy. For anyone standing behind me who believes he needs due process, an admission of guilt is more than due process. And perhaps because he didn't have counsel at the time, but for whatever reason, those were the words that came out of his mouth. Those are the words that we know to be true. He has sexually harassed women. He has admitted to it. He has not respected women, and he does not deserve to be the mayor of this city any longer.
Due process! Due process for all American courts. Yeah, what's a police report? You have to take due process, police report. Just give us a
I
name.
just want to say one
If
thing,
it's true,
that I believe
it's hearsay.
the mayor is getting the process he is due.
Artie Ojeda from NBC, guys. I got a question.
Final comment. As I mentioned, there will be a sexual harassment claim filed. But you must understand, when you file a claim against the highest level of CEO in the biggest company in town, there are certain measures that must be taken. This isn't something that is investigated by someone who reports directly to Bob. This is something that will have to go to other authorities, and it may not happen tonight and tomorrow. And the decision whether to file lawsuits into taxpayers for millions of dollars for the harm that these people have felt has not yet been made. But I will tell you this, we stand before you with about as much evidence as we would ever need to take this grand step. And I would urge every person in this city who believes what we've said to call on the mayor to resign at this time.
Marco, you say the mayor has made incriminating statements in his apology, and yet he also said in that apology that an independent investigation would prove him innocent of sexual harassment. He said that.
I think we need to be clear, and frankly, this is something that was very evident when Donna and I met with Bob. When confronted with allegations, his MO is to say and do whatever he needs to try to appease the person making the claim right then and right there. When we sat in his office, he promised to get help. He promised that he didn't understand that what he had done was wrong. And yet, he admitted that he did it. And in one statement on one day, he says, "I apologize for treating women without respect. I apologize for intimidating them." And the very next day, he says, "I am innocent." What does that tell you?
You've said that sexual harassment is illegal in California. So do you, I mean, these are serious accusations. So do you see them as possible crimes? And if so, why haven't you gone to police?
That's right. District attorney. Due process.
As I said,
Justice.
the goal of myself, Donna, and Cory was to not have to go there. And as I mentioned at our last, excuse me, our goal was to not have to go there. And it was our goal when we stood before you on Wednesday, but we told you the mayor would write the next chapter. And when the mayor issued his statement on Friday, after admitting to guilt, and he then claimed innocence, he wrote the next chapter, and this is it. And I will tell you right here standing before you, this is part of the next chapter. Regardless of what the mayor does from here on out, short of resigning, we will do what we need to do, whether it is criminal, civil, or administrative, to ensure that this gets resolved.
Marco, how can you not go to
Marty,
police?
excuse me just 1 second. I'd like to explain something to your question. The thing is, the decision on how these issues are, handled is in large part up to the client. We have Marco and Cory, our attorney, but there has to be the agreement of the woman, of their clients to move forward. These things take time. So please understand that. The client is the one who directs the action of the attorney.
Okay, so Mr. Filner has come out today and says that he will not resign.
Do you think that it's going to have to take these women stepping forward for him to resign? Because he says he's not going to do it.
I believe that Bob Filner admitted in his taped statement sexual harassment. I hope that we do not have to file, that the attorneys do not have to file litigation. That is not the goal. The goal is to get these women assistance and to help them heal. It is not to extract money. The goal is to make sure that these women have a safe place, that they're able to get some help, that they have the ability to go into a healing process without having to go through a public spectacle against the strongest, most official person in the city of San Diego, and that's our mayor.
Donna, as with all these cases, it's he said, she said.
Who employ them to make these complaints? Why are they coming to outside people like yourselves who are speaking for them? Why didn't they go through the proper process and all this stuff?
You want results immediately. The process is playing out.
No, that didn't answer the question. Why didn't we go to their immediate supervisor and go up the same
Look around. Look around. Read the message boards, the story that came out in the Reader, and look how people react. When you go forward as a woman who has been sexually harassed, the questions are, what do you look like? What were you wearing? What was your role? These women are doing a very courageous thing, and this process is playing out as it needs to.
The mayor said
And
that
these officials, these are women who have been supporters of Bob for a long time. And these are women who recognize the personal, political, and other ramifications of making these claims. They sought out insiders who had relationships with Bob Filner, who they believed could speak with Bob. And we did. And his response was unacceptable.
Marco, the mayor said that he wants to approach and apologize to these alleged victims. Are your clients going to allow that to happen?
I don't know.
If he steps down, will you still file a claim?
I don't know.
In a state,
No.
in a statement today, the mayor said that he expects and is entitled to due process. If he does not step down, and at this point it doesn't appear that he's leading in that direction, what will be your next step, and will you eventually file a criminal complaint? If
We've
your
already
clients-
answered that question already. Let's move on.
Marco, what about the he said, she said? As in these cases, it's always the situation. Just excuse me for 1 second.
In every circumstance that allegations occur in private, you get a he said, she said. One he said, she said is telling. Two he said, she said is telling. We know of multiple circumstances, all of which are consistent with the modus operandi that we described to you today. The Filner headlock exists. Many people have seen it. The Filner Dance exists, and it has for a decade or more. This is not something that is new.
Knowing the seriousness of these claims, why are you willing to let him get away with just stepping down? Why are you willing to let him get away with just stepping down?
We
You're
are
alleging criminal activity.
We are not saying what would happen if the mayor stepped down. What we are saying is he needs to step down now. What happens after that, as I said, is a script that is yet to be written, that is largely in the hands of the mayor and our clients.
Do the incidents get more serious? Are there more serious incidents than what you described today?
No comment on that.
Marco, you and Cory have made a lot of money suing this city over
Says
the
who?
years. Well, you keep asking for money for the fireworks.
I'm not going to entertain that response. If this was about money, I guarantee you there would have been a lawsuit filed a long time ago. If anyone standing before us in the press corps, if anyone out in the citizenry thinks this is about money, I feel bad for them.
And I just want to say one thing to everybody standing
No.
here today. I just want to ask you all, every single person standing here today, have you ever personally heard from anybody about this behavior? Have any of you, any of you, heard rumors? Have any of you had women come up to you and tell you their stories and tell you they are too afraid to speak? And if that has happened to you, you know the answers to why we're doing this the way we're doing it.
Donna, the bottom line is the mayor says he's not going to resign. Knowing what he knows about what you're going to say, he says he's not going to resign. What do you do now?
We are not going to be discussing the client strategy.
Marco, what's your reasoning for not telling us how many people have come forward?
I'm respecting the women who have come forward as much as I can at all junctures. And part of that is to not give those of you in the press the opportunity to start checking off boxes. I think when we've already seen what happens. We've already seen the witch hunt. We've already heard what people say and do when women come forward. We're going to protect every one of these women who does not want to come forward, in as much as we're going to fight for every woman who does.
But didn't you create that witch hunt by putting this in the public?
No, let me say something to you, sir, because I am really getting tired of your line of questioning. Let me say, with all due respect, Bob Filner caused this problem. Bob Filner is the problem, not these women for not coming forward. Bob knows exactly what he did. The people around him know what he's been doing. The people up in that office know what he's been doing. The people in the press know what he's been doing. So don't look at me and make those kind of comments.
Then how come you didn't know while you were on the city council?
When I found out, you want to start blaming people for not coming forward. Let me tell you something, sir. The moment, the second, the instance, I had credible evidence from an account, from a victim, firsthand, I came forward. Don't look at me like that.
We're done. Thank you.
Thank you.